Hi, everyone, and welcome to this coffee break course with UW Superior Continuing Education. My name is Amy LaRue, and I teach in the Health and Human Performance Department at UWS. So the topic for our session today is building resilience through perspective and intention. Now, the topic of resilience is huge, super important, but huge. And so we are going to kind of just scratch the surface today. I'll offer up a few focus areas and a few tips for you to kind of think about things a little bit differently. But then I'll also offer a resource for each of the things that we talk about. The resources are TED Talks. I'm a huge fan of TED Talks. I think they're a phenomenal way to learn. So I will offer you a resource for each of the things that we talk about today. The links for the TED Talks were sent out in the email from Continuing Education. So I would encourage you to check those out. They're all 15 minutes or less. So a great way to dig into the material a little bit more without spending a huge amount of time. So with that, we will get started. Like I mentioned, our topic for today is resilience. So how do we build resilience through focusing our perspective or readjusting our perspective, and then also through being intentional about the actions that we take? So I'm going to break it down a little bit. First, we'll start with just a simple definition of resilience. So resilience in its simplest form really is the ability for us to bounce back when things don't go as planned. So how do we kind of come back after a negative experience or something happening without it being part of our plan? So resilient people, there are three main elements that resilient people possess, and we're going to talk about each of those elements. I refer to them as the 3 C's. So they are challenge, commitment, and control. So we'll break each of those down a little bit, talk about them briefly. And like I said, then you'll have that resource to dig in a little bit more if you choose to. So talking about challenge. So resilient people view difficulty as a challenge. So it's something that is a challenge for them rather than a paralyzing event. They look at failures and mistakes as lessons to be learned from and opportunities to grow rather than a negative reflection of their own abilities or of their self-worth. So they really view it as like exactly what it says, a challenge. So how is this going to make me better? How is this going to challenge me to grow as a person rather than seeing it as, just something happening to you and it's bad and it's holding you down and it's holding you back. So when we talk about stress, there are actually different types of stress. Stress actually is something that we need in our lives. It's something that we need to continue to grow and to move forward in life. If we didn't have stress, we would kind of just stay the same. We wouldn't really go anywhere. We wouldn't really expand or move forward. And honestly, I feel like that would just be kind of a boring existence. So there are 2 different types of stress we talk about. There's distress, which is kind of that negative stress. And then there's eustress, which is good stress. So if you think about it, for example, if you get married or if you get a new job or you have a baby or you're going on vacation, all of those things can be stressful, but it's good stress, right? Those are good things that are happening, but they also bring stress with them, and that's a good thing. So a lot of it really is in how we choose to view stress. Kelly McGonigal is a leading researcher in stress. She's a fantastic speaker. She does a really good job of kind of breaking down stress, and she talks about her perspective as a researcher. She used to view all stress as negative, and she spent all of her time trying to tell people how to not be stressed. But now she encourages people to view stress differently and how to view it as a good thing in their lives. So it's really fascinating to see kind of how she breaks down the science and the physiology behind it, what happens in our brain. So I would encourage you to take the 15 minutes or so to watch Kelly's talk. Again, the link is in the the email that Continuing Ed sent out, and then I'll throw Kelly's name up here in the name of the TED Talk. So you could also Google it for yourself if you want to do it that way. So that is challenge. The next C, or the next element that resilient people possess, is commitment. So resilient people are committed to their lives. They are committed to the things that are important to them. So they have a compelling reason to get out of bed every morning. They commit to their relationships, and they commit to causes that they care about. Maybe they're committed to their spirituality. Maybe they're committed to their career. Whatever it is, they are committed to something that's really important to them. So I would encourage you to think about right now, what's important to you in your life? What are you committed to? And then ask yourself, how do you show up for those commitments every day? So if you truly are committed to something, maybe you're not at a point yet where you show up every day the way that you want to, but thinking about what it is you're committed to. And then we'll talk a little bit about habits and how important habits are in showing up in our lives the way that we really want to. So habits are extremely important. And it really is in the little things when you think about showing up for what's important for you. It's kind of those day-to-day, those little things every day. So when we talk about habits, something I'll offer is just kind of a little bit of insight or a little tip for you is habits. It's important when we're trying to develop a habit. It's important for us to tell ourselves what we want to do rather than what we don't want to do. So for example, if you're trying to eat a healthier diet, you don't want to tell yourself, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to eat any more sweets ever again, because that kind of almost sets ourselves up for failure. The way that our subconscious works, it has a lot to do with images. And so trying to see yourself as doing something rather than not doing something is really important. Just a quick example here. So I'm going to tell you to not do something right now. And whatever you do, don't do what I'm telling you. So I do not want you to think about a purple elephant dancing on pink grass. Do not think about a purple elephant dancing on pink grass. I'm guessing that a lot of you, or most of you, probably pictured in your mind a purple elephant dancing on pink grass. So when we tell ourselves not to do something, it's really hard for our subconscious. It's almost impossible, really, for myself anyway, to do that. So instead, you're going to tell yourself what to do, and you'll picture that in your mind instead. So you can always do something in place of, but with the example around eating a healthier diet, instead of saying, I'm not going to eat cookies, you're going to say, instead of cookies today, I'm going to eat carrots and celery. So, maybe you imagine in your mind putting carrots and celery in a baggie, and imagine yourself eating those at your 2:00 break instead of eating cookies. So I'm going to do this. You want to stay away from, I'm not going to do this. So hopefully that's a little helpful tip for you. The resource that I'll offer here is, so Charles Duhigg is the author he wrote the book, The Power of Habit. Fantastic book. If you haven't read it, I would encourage you, particularly if habits are something that you're trying to work on for yourself, building good habits. But he also did a TED Talk. So that's about 15 minutes as well. And again, the link is in the email that Continuing Ed sent out. And then also I'll put his name and the title here, so you can look that up for yourself if you want to do it that way. All right, our last C, or the last element that resilient people possess, is control. So resilient people spend their time and energy focusing on situations and events that they have control over. It helps them, they feel empowered and they feel confident, versus people who don't do that. They spend their time worrying about events that they can't control. And this can cause them to feel lost or hopeless or helpless, and kind of powerless to take action. So really focusing on having control in your life and having control over the things that you choose to do. So, we talk about, we don't always necessarily have actual control over external events or over other people and their actions, but we do have control over the way that we choose to respond to those things. So I would encourage you to view yourself as in control of what happens in your life, in control of how you respond or react to things that do happen. And I would also encourage you to think about, if you're one of the people who believes that life happens to you or life happens for you. So, right now, if you believe that life happens to you, maybe you feel like a victim of your circumstances. That is a little bit harder for you to be resilient in life and have control of your life if you view things as always happening to you. Versus if you are someone who believes that life is happening for you, like these events are happening for you, you definitely are likely a more resilient person because you view yourself in control of your life. For example, with the COVID-19 situation, do you view it as something that is holding you back and bringing you down? Or do you choose to view it as an opportunity for you to grow or to do things in your life that you haven't been able to do before because you have this extra time or whatever it is? And obviously the event is unfortunate, the pandemic, but it really is about how you choose to view it. But you viewing it as this really negative thing that's happening, it doesn't actually change the event. And it kind of lessens your mindset or takes you back a little bit or holds you down, versus if you view it happening for you, you can look at it as an opportunity to grow and become a better person. So I would just encourage you to think about, if life happens to you or if it happens for you. And the great thing is that we can always grow and we can always change. We can always learn and do better in life. So just take a few minutes to think about that for yourself and kind of decide how you want to move forward there. Another quick thing I'll throw in here is our reticular activating system is essentially a network of nerves that sits on our brainstem back here. And in a simple way of defining it as it's kind of acts like a filter. So every day, every minute, every hour, there are hundreds and thousands of images and sights and sounds and things that come at us. And as phenomenal as our brains are, they can't actually process all of those things. So it has to, essentially, we only let certain things in. And fortunately, we do have some control over what we allow in. An example I'll give you here is of how your reticular activating system works is if you've ever bought a new vehicle or someone in your family or a friend bought a new vehicle. Let's say they bought a big red Chevy truck. Once your friend or you buy this new vehicle, all of a sudden you start to notice the big red Chevy trucks all over the road, right? You'll be driving along, you're like, hey, is that Joe? And you're like, no, but it looks like Joe's truck. And you start to see them everywhere. And the funny part is, it's not that the dealership just all of a sudden had this huge sale on big red Chevy trucks. They've always been there. You just haven't noticed them because you weren't calling attention to it. So now that you are noticing and you realize that they're there, you see them all the time. So that essentially is our reticular activating system. So if we choose to see things, we'll see more of them. We've probably all heard that saying, what you focus on expands. So this is kind of the science behind that. It's not just like a fluffy saying that people made up for fun. It really is true. If you choose to focus on things, you'll start to see more of those. And that's true if it's good. If you choose to focus on good stuff, you'll see more good stuff. If you choose to focus on negative stuff, you'll see more negative stuff. So it really is about you and the choices that you make. So being intentional about what you focus on. So with our control element, Isaac Lidsky is a phenomenal, very powerful speaker. He did a TED Talk. It's called "What Reality Are You Creating for Yourself?" I want to say this is about 12 minutes. I would encourage you. It's definitely worth the watch. So, like I mentioned before, go ahead and find the link in the email. Otherwise, I'll put the name and the title here for you to look up if you choose to take that route. So, again, our 3 C's in building resilience are challenge, commitment, and control. Speaking of challenge, again, I'll challenge you to kind of think about each of these a little bit more and decide what you're going to do. How are you going to be intentional? How are you going to choose to change your perspective? And that is our session for today. So I appreciate all of your time and your attention, and I hope that everyone is doing phenomenally well, and I hope that you choose to make it a good day. Thanks.